Hey guys, Henry here again. Hope you're doing well. Today I'll be bringing you a new episode of the Lowedown series, where we talk about everything that's happened in fashion for the previous month, giving you a really good summary and lowdown, so to speak, on what's happening in the industry, as well as just any trends or any things I've picked up in general. I think my first key talking point that I gathered from last month in general is just the increased pressures that luxury fashion is facing. It's incredibly clear to me right now how much fashion is struggling. Retailers seem to be dropping like flies, and then especially in the creative scene, I've heard from many people that work there that I'm mates with that it's really tough right now. Something I hold close to my heart, Burberry is still failing, unfortunately. Their Q4 2023 report showed that the revenue's down 12%. They're continuing to miss expectations. And I think in general, whilst I really love the direction that the brand's going with Daniel Lee at the helm, their entire rollout and logistical side of bringing this new direction to the brand has been very poor. I think it's clear that it's been mismanaged. And for me, if you're dropping a new direction for a brand as big and as popular as Burberry, it has to be cohesive, it has to be across the board, all aligned, and it just seems like the stock has been drip feeding through. We don't even know what collection we're seeing right now, whether it's the first one or now we're moving on to his second drop. So it's really poor. And then again, we saw that Fendi is skipping a season when it comes to Couture week in June. I don't think this is as alarming as many may see, but it's interesting to see how they're deciding to not take part in what is always a very big moment for any fashion house. I think in general, we're seeing increased pressure on all retailers to really sell products, and it's been so clear as we head into sort of sale season how big the discounting is already at. And I think there's a lot of retailers who have really big stock issues. I think when you look at Essence, they're clearing stock from previous seasons, potentially even dating back to SS23. Obviously Matches has been on heavy discounts as they look to clear out their entire stock levels after they were put into administration. And I think in general, if you're looking to get some steals, it's a great time to be shopping. But more and more retailers are shutting, as I've mentioned. But I think the general underlying issue here is I think many retailers have been operating with a buying model that just hasn't worked now. I think pre-COVID or during COVID and just shortly after, when there was almost this revenge shopping experience where people just wanted to get out there and buy stuff to spend their money on something, I think you could sell anything at that point. And these retailers were buying wide and deep, every option. There was about 2,000 black shoe options on a website. You know, you couldn't not have an abundance of choice when you went on these websites. And I think now, as people are facing harder times in terms of the economy, particularly in the UK, but I know across the globe, people are having more difficulty paying bills. It's easy to cut back on fashion as a spend. And I think naturally people aren't spending as much money on buying another pair of black shorts, another pair of black trousers. All the retailers who have been buying this way are now really struggling, and they're sat on infinite stock levels, and they have to discount heavily to clear it, to get more stock in. I think it's something to keep an eye on. I think I've touched on it before that I feel like there's definitely going to be a sort of survival of the fittest model with the fashion industry right now, and I think it will recover, but it's just going to be very hard to see maybe some of your favorite places shut down. Once again, if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and even comment down below what was your favorite bit of news, or if I missed anything off. Of course, as well, make sure you follow me on all platforms, Instagram and TikTok. It's the Lowdown on there. Talk about anything and everything to do with fashion, and as we gear up to fashion month in June, there'll be plenty of content coming through. My next point to touch on builds on this a bit further, and it's how the fashion industry is really shaping in this economic downfall almost. And I think it's so evident now that these brands who have really capitalized on D2C methods and D2C websites are winning. Whilst they're not super high-end luxury brands, the likes of Cole Buxton and Represent are two fine examples of brands who focused on this at the forefront of their brand strategy. And because of that, they are loving life. I think the better examples of this with potentially bigger players in the industry is looking at Aime, Dore or Stussy. Famously, Stussy pulled themselves out of a lot of independents and a lot of key retailers. Aime, Dore did the same thing. Aime, Dore used to sit on sale racks at some retailers because they were heavy onto wholesale, and by stripping that out, they've really managed to control the distribution of their product, control the brand message. And I would argue that Aime, Dore is probably one of the hottest brands right now. It's got a really cool direction, it's got a really cool aesthetic, and loads of guys love it. I think simply by taking control of this distribution, it empowers them to really just capture the market and dictate and understand who their customer is. I think by having that really strong relationship and understanding of who your customer is in this current climate, is so easy to then expand and build upon. You see Represent, for example, going out and expanding into 247 with their sort of athleisure wear and knowing that their customer is into going to the gym and looking good, running and in the gym too. And then they've now moved on to bringing out their own beverage line, I believe, which then builds on that further, that the guy that's buying into that brand wants an all-encompassing experience where they don't even have to leave that brand's house, so to speak. And in general, I feel like retailers need to try and understand this better. Whilst Essence definitely seem to be facing a lot of stock issues, I think they're so on the ball with who the person that are buying from them is. They're so on trend with all of their marketing plays and things like that. And a lot of retailers need to follow in this suit. And I think this is a really interesting time then for potentially a return of these independent spaces that curate and master what product their customer wants. And a customer can go into this store or go on this small website or boutique and spend far better because they feel like it's very them. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how it all pans out. I would love to see more independent spaces get some love. I've touched on it before, how I love retail spaces such as H-Town, as well as Broken Arm in Paris, I believe. They're two really well curated shops. I think if more retailers can look to really build upon an experience in the way that they do, they will definitely capture sales and they will definitely succeed. My final point is actually now going to talk about APAC and Asia Pacific and how it seems to be so important for all these brands' strategy and how they look to expand into the region. We've just seen Balenciaga take their resort collection to Shanghai, which was a spectacle. Personally, I wasn't a big fan of the collection. It seemed very redundant and the same things Demna's been doing for a long time, but I can see that they're really catering towards a certain customer. And I just did some deep diving into like the numbers behind APAC, and APAC represents 37% of the global fashion economy, so it's very key. That makes it bigger than the likes of the US and most of Europe market too. And Business Sweden reported that APAC customers are also super accustomed already to overseas shopping. So the names that they recognize already are the likes of Farfetch and Coupang being sort of a localized retailer for them. And that partnership now between Farfetch and Coupang after the acquisition is going to be very important, I find. And I think Farfetch are really going to be looking at this area to expand and almost conquer it. By already being a recognized name for them, it really will allow them to build upon that and become a household name where everybody shops there. And I think that can only benefit the fashion industry in a sense of Farfetch incorporating all these different smaller retailers onto their platform, allowing them to use the logistics to ship to different destinations and have exposure that they wouldn't have had before. I do feel though that the region as a whole is synonymous with being quite difficult to break into. I remember vividly a few years ago about ASOS's failed expansion into the area. It's not an easy feat. There's a lot of slight tweaks and differences. They have an app that they use almost very similar to WhatsApp that you can shop all through that. And I think some retailers have tried to mimic that style in that you might have noticed brands now texting you with the data they collect from when you make an account and just having that more personal relationship where people have less opportunity to shop elsewhere and almost discounts and offers are screaming at them in the face. It's really important for that region. In addition to that, we've also seen fashion houses expanding into the area through influencer and ambassador partnerships. Some I've jotted down to note are the likes of Jennie Kim of Blackpink now working with Chanel, as well as Kim Seung Min of Stray Kids now working for Loewe. And I think those are crucial because the exposure that K-pop celebrities have in that region is crazy. There's sheer adoration to them. They are almost put on pedestals as gods in the region. So being able to link yourselves with those individuals for a fashion house or brand is really important and crucial to capture more and more sales. I think generally it seems like it's a very strategic and planned out expansion for many retailers and brands into this region. So it's not a rushed effort. And I think that's how you have to concentrate here. You have to make sure you're cool, calm and collected and really understanding the consumer there and how they work mentally. But I think it's definitely something to keep your eyes on and it will be really interesting to see how this unfolds. So there you go, guys. A bit of a shorter one this week. I feel like it's better to keep these a bit snappier than some of my other videos because it can get very informative. and I don't want to bore you guys too much with data and analytics, but let me know in the comments if you think that's something you want to see more of. I'm always looking to gather some research and understand what you guys want to see more importantly. I think next month will be a really good roundup in general. It's June now, we're into fashion month and there's a lot of stuff already going on. So again guys, thanks for watching and I'll catch you in the next video.